superior to anybody because that's true. They just don't. As a matter of fact, I believe they're both intelligent enough to know that that's not something to feel superior about. It's actually like, no, all the more reason why we gotta do what we can to get some people out. I think is how they work. Both of them. Right? Neither one of them have any insecurity about their intelligence whatsoever. They're both pro audiobook. I told you this is anecdotal at best. Versus a group of people I've known throughout my life who I would describe as people who read more than their best friend. So, consider themselves to be readers, and they would be. They are more likely, I think, to hold on to the you have to read it from the page, otherwise it's not real. Because I do believe there's this makes me superior to my best friend. I've given you a lot of opinion and some facts about two people one I know and another I kind of know. Right? So I don't know that I'm right about that, but that it definitely feels that way with the book argument. I never feel as if when I'm done with an audiobook, like, good for me. But like somehow American life has gotten us to the point where it's like you finish a book, like, look at me go. Like the confetti's gonna come from the sky now. Like there's a little bit of it. I read a lot all day, every day for work. I have used that as an excuse not to read for recreation. That's a thing I don't like. I read, I have books, I read more than, as a matter of fact, I read more than 12 books last year. But I can't tell you how many of them I finish, and I think to myself, I didn't really want to read that. I didn't really enjoy it while I was reading it. I read it because I know I should read books. Now, the gym can be that too. Really want to go? Didn't really like it when I was doing it. Kind of know I should do it. And so, like, that's just it, right? We talk about that theory a lot. That how I feel maybe should not decide what it is my actions are all of the time, right? Sometimes my feelings can be coming from a place of like, yeah, I don't want, right? Like versus like what you should really be doing. Getting a little sidetracked, right? But that's what I've noticed about that argument about whether or not, and that's not necessarily new, right? There's the movie, the book is better and the book is better. And here's what I'll tell you about that. I read a book once that was so good I couldn't put it down. And I read it more than once. And it was one of the saddest stories I've ever read in my entire life. And it's what people would consider to be chick book. It's called The Glass Castle. That book rocked me to the core. It's like, this happened? Adults watch this happen? Nuts, bro. That book inside of 6 pages has you like, what? Dude, take these kids from these people right now. I mean, like 10 pages in, you're right there. They made that movie with Woody Harrelson. It wasn't close. Good movie, but it's a great book, and that's why nobody remembers the movie. Because they didn't capture it. I remember when I watched the movie, I was like, oh my God, I'm that snob I want to punch. Like that lady I'm not allowed to punch because, you know what I mean, it's not nice, socially unacceptable, and I'm bigger, stronger, and all that stuff. I'm not allowed that lady you wish you could strangle with her own braid and her ponytail, that lady. Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm that lady on the couch now. Because, like, I saw that movie, I was like, this is nowhere near as good as that book was. I mean, they did that book, and I mean, no justice whatsoever.
The Stansberry Show. You have to recognize that one of his greatest strengths is his voice, which makes him sound sexy and smart. Sexy and sexy. On Rock 106.9.
An actor, a little worried about being typecast. Says it's already happened. Does not like it. 9 a.m., we'll get into that. Can be a pitfall of that industry, for sure. This is where a lot of people will say, that's what the money's for. We'll get to it. All right. I was just telling you yesterday that one of the signs that I had aged a little. Now, people have problems with their eyesight at any age, but, like, my vision had been just fine, right? And one morning I woke up, looked at the phone, couldn't see it. I'm in denial. It'll be fine tomorrow. Woke up the next day, nah, can't see it. Maybe tomorrow. Third time's the charm, right? Wake up the third day, couldn't see it. I was like, all right, let's go get cheaters, as my buddy Mark will call it. And so I got a pair in here, pair at the nightstand at home, in the living room. I mean, they're everywhere. And I find myself on, off all the time, and, you know, this and that. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go get an eye exam. Yesterday did that. And I got the prescription there. And the guy said to me, he goes, you know, he's like, your vision issues are a lot like mine. He's like, you know, you could pretty much wear glasses when you wanted and take them off when you don't. He's like, but I understand why, you know, you're getting sick of putting them on and off all day. He's like, you know, that would be annoying. Let's get you some glasses you can just wear, right? And that's what we did. And for me, that's a sign. It's like, okay, we're kind of, will be a few other along this list here, as I have what is apparently harder for men. I think some of this stuff is going to be harder for women too. Let's say, you know what I mean? But apparently this is what's harder for men as we start to age. Right smack dab in the middle of the list. I'm not necessarily going to go one through, you know,
back to reality,
one or whatever. We'll move around.
I've been in,
but friendships is right in the middle of the list. We've talked about this a lot, right? There's
been in Southeast Asia for
I talk about that. It's like, you know,
month.
I can tell you everything I know about everything there is to know about my best friend. My husband's played golf with this guy 10 years. He doesn't know his last name, right? And that can be true, you know. I don't know about all male friendship environments. I can tell you the golf courses a lot is because it's quiet. Like, that's why they like it. You know what I mean? Dude, your husband's out there shooting 130. He sucks, man. Like, he couldn't be any worse at it. But it's quiet. And so he likes it, right? It's kind of one of those things. But they say here, men have a hard time communicating. It gets a little complicated as we transition from being a little young, yo, man, want to hang out later? And everybody has their own life, goes their separate ways in the life. And we know how this works. There are friends who can be a threat to your adult life. Everybody has been here. Every woman, every man, everybody's been there where it's like, you got a buddy, got a friend. They're great. You, me, and Dupree, right? Like, and it's like everybody, and like, you got that guy, and it's like, he's great. But no, he isn't. You know what I mean? And like, and you kind of weed people out. And creating new people, this is what I find true about a lot of guys I know, personally know. Again, this would be anecdotal. Their friends are their wife's friends. I'm like, how do you know that, dude? It's very close to it's like, oh, okay, so like, you don't have any. Those are gone, right? Like, you have your dinner friends that she apparently likes. Like, you have a little bit of that. Now, that's an exaggeration, but it can be true. Yeah, I think the men friendship thing is going to be difficult. Because men are apparently so obsessed with how they're seen by other men. Right? Like, this is what, let's just get to the point of this. If you hear a man wants to tell another man he's feeling a little lonely, needs a little bit of support, what are you, a sissy man up back in my day, and Gary Cooper and blah, 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 or whatever Tony Soprano was crying about, and like everything and all of that, right? But now that guy commits suicide, and we're at his funeral tomorrow. Why didn't he tell anybody? I love that guy. Is that right? If he calls you today and tells you he loves you, you gonna hang up on him? Now, if you're screwing around with your buddies and he tells you I love you, boy, dude, come on, quit being, you know, I'm not allowed to use that. I'm not allowed to use the Q word anymore. That's what you would say. Dude, come on, quit, you know, whatever. And then you'd hang up the phone. Quit screwing around. Right? Be some of that. But, like, the male friendship thing could be tough. A lot of guys out there worried about being the biggest alpha. They don't need no friends. You know what I mean? Lions and sheeps, and they don't worry, and they sleep on piles of this, and whatever the hell the beam says. Whatever the hell this. Another thing on the list goes along
everyday
with
life.
Being,
that's
what's
happening.
Being tougher as you age. I think that's true for women too. So adapting to change just gets harder. Again, I think this is probably true of women too. When you're younger, you're flexible, right? A little older, you're a little bit more set in your ways. True. I can just look at my career there. When I was a little younger, I'm like, yeah, all right, try that, I kind of know how I like doing it. You know, you kind of get to that point. I try to be less stuck in my ways personally now than ever. Anybody who knows me personally would be like, he hasn't perfected it though. You know what I mean? Like, hey, he's attempted it. I don't know if we could go with finished product on that one there. And so I probably struggle with adapting to some change. I feel as if
heading out to work.
Open to, like,
I work about a half an hour away from here.
You know,
in the middle of Amish country.
Habits, that can be a little different for me. That can be more difficult. Memory, they say, just tougher as you start to age. Can be frustrating, embarrassing. I say it all the time after the show's done. You can ask me a very basic question. And I'm in this mix after this show is done. All right, I did this one, working on the next one. I got to worry about tomorrow. I still got to do those spots for him. I cut that spot for Pole Barnes Direct, right? I did that, right? I got this, I got that. Wait, hold on. Where am I with Serpents? Do that? I recorded that, right? And like, I can get a little there, and if you can find me in the hallway at like 1 o'clock and ask me what 2 + 2 is. I'm like, well, Chaucer said, and it's like, no, bro, I just asked you this. It's like, oh, sorry, man, my brain is mush, like mush, and that does happen. I can get a little lost in that. There was the little afternoon fogginess thing that was set in. We'll talk about that here in a little later with some things that are tough for men for aging, and some actions I have taken in my life on some of that kind of stuff. Energy is on this. To combat declining energy levels, they say focus heavily on physical fitness and sleep. Ensure you're getting enough sleep. If you don't get that sleep, you're going to gain weight. You won't look as good, and you're not going to feel as good. That is all true. Those people who pride themselves on the fact that they can do something on 2 hours of sleep, it's like, yes, dude, we all know you can wake up and go do the thing you're supposed to be doing. You're not doing it as well as you would be on 8 hours of sleep. You aren't thinking as clearly as you would be on 8 hours. It's just, they've run tests on the smartest, most productive people in the world, i.e. not you, not me, right? And what they have found is when they sleep, more productive, more, you know what I mean, sharp, available. I can just tell you, if I get no sleep, it's like, oh, dude, he is out there in left field, right? The more sleep I get, the more fluid everything is normally. There's sometimes where I'm multitasking in here, and a massive mistake gets made because I'm doing that. If I've slept for anywhere from like 6.5 hours or more, that is not that it won't happen. It is, well, she bitched until about 2 last night, so now let's see what we get, right? Like on those days, like those. The energy thing is one of those things I noticed. Now I'm north of 40 now, right? North of that, well north. And I remember when I turned 40, everybody tells you, oh God, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. Let me tell you about, now I like my life, okay? Turning 40 was a lot like getting arrested. I was so worried about it. And then once it happened, I was like, all right, it sucks, but it's not as bad as I had it in my mind. I'll be all right, right? And that's kind of 40. It was like, yeah, they have the cuffs on, I'm fine, right? And that's kind of how I approached that. But I will tell you, it was about 47 months where all the TV commercials started to feel like they were custom tailored to me. Like, a little tired in the afternoon, buddy, little, you got a little of that. Yeah, let me play a little 18 holes of golf on Saturday morning. Can't do everything else the rest of the day. That started to become a little true in the first day. And then I had some denial on it. Years later, we ended up going, all right, bite the bullet, let's figure some stuff out. We'll talk about a little bit of that, because again, there's more things on this list, apparently, just tough, and I mean tough, for dudes as they age. Ladies, I think a lot of this pertains to you, too, which is another reason why we're going to talk about it next on Rock 106.9.
The Stansberry Show.
Weird, lame, gross, dumb, freak, loser, perv, toothy.
On Rock 106.9.
9 a.m., rock the bank with me and pass out that first $1,000 keyword to you. That'll be the worst. Yeah. Bonus money's always good. And one of my favorite movies ever. The Color of Money. Money won. Twice as sweet. Money earned. Paul Newman was right about that. Win your way into $1,000. We had talked about some stuff that's harder for men as they age. I think a lot of this stuff would pertain to women too. Like friendships was on the list, adapting to change. I don't think women are sitting around at 45, 50 going, woohoo, these energy levels through the roof, man. Like, you know, it kind of talks about how men kind of will deal with the energy thing. I don't think women at 50 are just like, man, I got to burn off, so I'm like a Labrador now. I got to do laps around. I was like, I don't think that's what's happening, right? Another thing on the list is time for yourself. Again, I don't think this is, I'm just going to guess here that this is not necessarily a man or a woman problem. I think this is an adult with responsibilities problem. As a matter of fact, if I listed all the men and women in my mind that I know who are parents, and who I would list as like, that's a pretty good parent right there, right? None of them are like running around with a bunch of free time, because being a good parent takes up that time, right? Yeah. This is why sometimes you'll pass your hobbies on to your kid. Because you spend a lot of time with them, trying to be a good parent, right? And this is why a lot of times you'll become a fan of the thing your kid's a fan of. And that part's probably a little bit better, right? It's probably a little, like somebody asked me once, I was seeing this woman who had children, and I'm not a big Marvel movie guy. Somebody said, what are you going to do when that kid's like, man, I love these Marvel movies? I was like, put a Captain America shirt on, look right at him and go, this is going to be awesome, right, buddy? You know what I mean? Because like at that point, it's about him, not me. You know, but I don't think let me tell you, I am the most time-rich person you know. When I want it, it's awesome. And I almost hate to gloat about it, because it is awesome when I want it. I want my free time now. I bet less than you want to claw some of it back for you. It feels as if this subject matter, free time, is a little too close to all or nothing for the benefit of all of us in this society. Meaning I wish you could have a little bit more free time. Whether it's in the garage for the hot rod for you, or whether it's, the book club, or, curating the museum over here, whatever the typical male stereotype versus women, whatever the thing is. I wish you all had a little bit more time. I think we would all benefit from that. Get us into a universal basic income conversation there at some point. Let's be careful. But yeah, I don't think most adults who have the adult responsibility things you're supposed to have don't find themselves with a whole lot of freedom. This is what the childless are always bragging so much about, right? And here's the thing. I think there are plenty of people who are married, or even in a, let's say, committed relationship. Meet me there, right? Committed relationship, who are childless, who I think are happier because they are childless. I don't think it's most people who are single and not married. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. We all can have an opinion or a feeling or a gut instinct on this and that, and that's kind of one of mine. I'm not sure I believe those people. I'm not even sure I believe all the couples who decided not to have kids, that they're as happy as they want you to believe. I think a lot of them are. I don't think it's all of them that are spending maybe their entire adult life being single or being, dinks online influencers. Look how great it is. We didn't do this. That feels a little like, oh no, we might have screwed up, so let's make this cash from these other heathens in case, right? Like it feels like a little bit. It does. It feels a little like that to me. I could be wrong. That may be some of my life regret seeking out. Maybe. Talking about things that are a little tougher as you age. Being cool, they say. When you're older, you don't feel relevant or hip. We talked about this just a little bit yesterday with the Grammys, because I'm supposed to be up in arms about what the Grammys did. I was like, no, I'm not. If my dad, at my age, would have cared about what the Grammys did, I'd be like, what in the hell, dude? Get in your own goddamn lane, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would have said.